you and I, of course, very, very rich people. I mean,
Well, yeah,
there's,
we're super rich and we're well astute, and obviously we have connections.
well, our people handle this for us.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have a
yeah, of
person.
course. There's this lingering rumor that only rich people buy EVs, and I'm here to tell you them days is gone. But I can't say it by myself, so that's why I brought in an expert, President Joe himself from the San Joaquin Valley Tesla Owners Club. So great to have him. And let's get into it. I'm Brian. Welcome to My Tesla Weekend. So, Joe, may I call you President Joe? The I've met Joe a number of times at different events. He gets around quite a bit, and
True.
so do
True.
I. So do I. In fact, we even hung out in front of Giga Texas one morning before an event. That was fun. Uh, so there's this persistent rumor that EVs are just for rich people, and there was a time when that was more true than it is now. What's your take on that?
Yeah, no, you cannot get a Tesla or any EV unless you are a wealthy millionaire. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
is just facts. Everybody knows that.
Mm-hmm. I just found out I'm a millionaire.
Yay! You know what's so funny about that is my cousin, 22 years old. He just got his a Model 3, and he does DoorDash, and that's all he does is DoorDash. And one of the people were like, "You got a Tesla? How?" He's like, "I make the payments."
Right?
like like what? It's not crazy expensive, and especially after all the rebates and everything. Like people just kind of lose sight of it. And I think, well, as we know, like there's a huge part of the country that doesn't even know anything, which is why Teslas are like less than 10% of the market, right? So you have like over 90% of people that just have no clue. And I saw your video about the Midwest. Man, that whole area is it's pretty wild.
Yeah, we're seeing it go region by region. I've had people in the comments on that video and ones like it say, "Well, I'm in this place, and even 2, 3 years ago, I'd see one or two a day, and now I see three or four an hour." It's an improvement.
Yeah, it's definitely an improvement. I think for me, for what I've realized, because I come from a different background. Like my family's not rich. I used to be homeless, and people who know my story will know that about me. That I don't come from money. But what I've come to realize is there are a lot of that minority group of people. You know what I mean? Whether you're brown or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just like there's just that subset of people who are on the lower income of the spectrum who just think that's for those people and I can't get it. And because there's no advertising and because people are just not made aware, they have no clue. But I think, I'm not really a huge advocate for like advertising per se, but I am a huge advocate for education around adoption. So, and I just think if more people were educated, they would make better choices because even some of the people who I work with, and I live in California, who have no idea about EVs and the benefits of them, they are still giving me old rhetoric from like 5, 6 years ago. You know what I mean? And it's like, what? That's not true. And then like the whole thing with the cold that recently came up is like, yeah, Tesla's been making vehicles for over a decade, and like 2024 was the year that cold happened. Yeah, no, I don't think so. Like it's been
Chicago
cold for years.
invents cold.
Yeah, it's just really wild, man.
I saw a gentleman post a comment on a video I made saying, EVs are still too expensive. I'm going to stick with my Lincoln Town Car and just drive that because it's cheaper. And so I looked it up. An old town car, you're getting 5, 10 miles to the gallon. So 10, let's just say 10 miles to the gallon.
Yeah, I was gonna
If
say
it,
8.
yeah, eight is more realistic, but let's just say 10 to keep it round. If you're doing 15,000 miles a year, which is pretty normal, that's 1,500 gallons of gas. That's $4,500 if you can get gas for $3, which Most of the year you cannot. So you're spending 5 grand a year on gas? What on earth? How can you afford that? How can you after 6 years you got a free electric vehicle? Why would you bragging that you're to say nothing of the repairs on an old town car, the oil changes. It's insanity. So, the average car cost is in the US, I think it's down to 38,000 across the board.
Yeah.
That's an improvement over the 43,000 we saw recently.
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes. And for like the community that I speak about a lot, like I don't think they're aware of that. I mean, they're out buying like freaking, the Mustangs and freaking Chargers and Challengers and things like that for like 50 and thinking
Yeah.
that they're getting a good deal because they can't get a Tesla because they're 100 grand.
You can get a Model S for well under 100. And those are, I don't know if you're aware, pretty nice cars. Even
And a
pickup
little
trucks.
faster than a Mustang.
And it's the smart kind of fast where you don't spin out and hit light
Yeah.
poles like you've seen in a whole lot of videos of guys in Mustangs. They just really love light poles, I guess. So if you this morning I had a video out this morning where this article in Fortune was complaining that $35,000 Tesla never happened. Well, maybe very briefly and with very limited options, right? That look on your face, you're like, wait a minute, didn't it? So I went ahead and ran the inflation calculator and found that 43,000 it would be 35,000 from 2017. But forget that. When I checked the store yesterday, in inventory, there were two Model 3s at 35,090. $90. They were $90. And that's a way better car than was offered for 35,000. It's still got the premium sound. It's still got it's got longer range. It doesn't have any features really stripped out of it. The cars are affordable. And then you add on, you may get state, local, or federal credits. Add on that you're not spending $3, $4, $5,000 a year on gas. How can you afford not to? The only reason you can afford not to is if you don't need a car. Or, I've got a 5-year-old paid off Honda. Okay, great. Maybe it's not time for you to buy a new car. The myths I love. I'm assuming one of the ones you hear quite a bit is, well, did you know after 5, 6 years, you have to buy a battery?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that's an age old tale. My my 2013 Model S that I just recently got rid of because I was getting the Cybertruck was almost 200,000 miles. Well over the 5-year mark.
It's weird that no one told your battery that because
Right.
surely, and I've met people at shows who have well over 200,000 on their odometer and have not had problems.
Yep.
And the thing is, if your battery dies after 7 years, you get a new battery. So, well, no, you get a reconditioned battery. Yeah, they don't do that anymore. That's not really a thing. The only exception would be if they'd brought one in and just had to change something in the battery management system. But I think that would just be fixed in line now, not brought back and reconditioned because it's cheaper and easier to just do it that way. Now, a while back, you had shared on X this fantastic post. It was an ad from a local dealer showing some of the incentives that may be available on EVs. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Run that ad. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, we'll pull it up in post.
Yeah,
You'll
no,
see.
yeah, pull it up in the post. So, it was just wild to me that people had that belief that there was no benefits, there was no, yeah, I mean, well, they didn't know about the benefits, but or the rebates or anything like that. It was just like this is the price and this is all you get and things of that nature. But I mean, as you can see, like there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more nuance to it, and it really these are like quick Google searches, man. Like this isn't like rocket science. Like literally, all somebody has to do is just like look this stuff up. You know
And
what I mean?
it's crazy because people type in the name of your state, the name of your city, plus EV incentive, and it'll pop up. Uh, my state is very stingy. I'm in Washington,
Oh, wow.
and it's very stingy. We've got a used EV credit, but the car has to be under like 20 or 25,000. And the only other benefit that I'm aware of, oh, there might be a new one, but it starts at like 30. I mean, it's basically impossible. But you can get your charger at your home charger installed, not for free, but there's a rebate offered. And some of the utilities in the state will offer additional incentives on top of that that make it more attractive. So it's no longer a rich man's car. Um,
Yeah. You know what's wild is, like, my neighbor, right? I've been telling my neighbor for years, like, "Yeah, you should get a Tesla, you should get a Tesla." He went out and bought, like, himself a old used Chrysler 300 for about 12,000, I think it was. He could have got a Model 3 at the time, like, just a few months ago, you know what I mean? They were like 28, 30, you know what I mean? Like a used one with a few miles on it or whatever. Like, and now with under 25,000 with the extra $4,000, I mean, you can just anyway. So he did that, and it took him, I think, like 2 to 3 weeks before the engine blew, and now he's got to replace the engine.
and that's the thing people forget is if you've got an older EV, if it's got 100, 200, 300,000 miles and the battery goes out, it is very expensive. That may be the end of the car. But if your engine or transmission goes out at that time frame, it is also the end of your car. You can always pay to have a motor put in, but at some point your mechanic will look at you and say, "Are you sure? Is this really what you want to do with your money? It makes no sense." So there are concerns that way. And yeah, at some point you just have to stop and say, this is no longer just a rich person's car. The average Tesla before incentives is, the threes and whys, you can get them already below the average cost of a car. Add the incentives on, it gets downright affordable. And now at the point of sale rebate, the dealer can just take that price off like it was part of the down payment, and your monthly payments will reflect it.
Right.
So you and I, of course, very, very rich people. I mean,
Well, yeah,
there's
we're super rich, and we're well astute, and obviously we have connections.
well, our people handle this for us.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have a
yeah, of
person.
course. Of course.
You know
We
what's crazy is a Challenger, or no, yeah, a Challenger, um, the Hellcat or whatever. It's like a $20,000 engine. These aren't cheap. You know, you're not going to replace like your engine like what people think, like $2,000, $3,000 anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
no.
no, it's these are expensive
The
engines now.
labor alone is going to be more than that.
Oh yeah.
And and then if you can find an old engine that came out of something else, but on those cars I imagine most of the damage is on the front end. If one of those is totaled, it's not because it was rear-ended at a stoplight. uh, is my guess. So, Joe, I want to thank you for showing up and hanging out with me and making me feel rich and making all of the regular people feel rich too.
We out here, man. We balling out of control.
And if you are in the San Joaquin Valley area and you have a Tesla, you need to join the team. They've got one of the more active, more fun uh,
Yeah.
owners clubs, and yeah, it's just fun because there's little events that take place and little ride and drives and bigger events too. So I assume we'll throw links in the description and all that. But you just never know with
If you
me.
could. If you could.
Of course, of course. But you still never know with me. So, everybody else in the comments, what did we miss? What do we misunderstand? What is the real cost advantage of having an EV? And to all you petrol heads who keep showing up to pretend like we're not uh, knowing what we're talking about, this is not our first day. But by all means, leave the comments and let's see which one of the regulars corrects you first. So, everybody else, like, subscribe, do the usual things, and stay tuned, stay juicy. And I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots until the next time I get Joe back, which I suspect will be fairly soon.